Do you have an opinion as to why we have so much processed food out there? Is
Greed,
it because that's what's made available? Is it because of the way
greed.
it tastes better? Is it, I mean, what, it's
It
just,
does.
to me,
I don't believe it tastes better. I mean, look,
it doesn't.
I believe in Hamburger Helper. Okay. I want to
Right.
explain what I mean by that. If there is something to which you add meat and you make a
Yes.
skillet dinner that costs a few dollars a portion or less than $2 or whatever it is, and you can feed a family of four inexpensively with a home cooked meal where you can sit down at the table and actually share it and talk with, the mom, dad, and the 1.95 kids that they have, right? I am so pro Hamburger Helper, it's coming out of my pores.
Yeah.
What I'm against is the processed food that's necessary to go into the sauce, when in fact the sauce can be made with very natural ingredients. And I
Hmm.
can do it as quickly as you can make Hamburger Helper. I can melt a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of flour and make a roux and add a cup of milk to it. And there is my sauce that's very healthy and nutritious that then can bind all those things in that creamy, delicious thing.
Sure.
My version is called a bechamel. It's got a fancy French word,
Mm.
right? Um, and I can do that quicker than most people can pour the packet in and add boiling water, right? But I would want there to be vegetables in there. I would want it to cook for 5 minutes longer. It needs to be convenient. But if you cut carrots, onions, broccoli, celery, I'm just talking about the more inexpensive vegetables out there, or even just adding frozen vegetables to that, which are still nutritious, right? We've learned a way to freeze vegetables and maintain their nutritive qualities. I'm very pro Hamburger Helper. I'm against using unnatural ingredients and other things because what it does is it allows very large food companies to profit on unhealthy foods that we know are bad for us. These companies, however, are multinational gazillion dollar companies that hold a tremendous amount of sway and power in our world. Now, it took about 30 years between the discovery that cigarette smoking was bad for us to essentially ban TV commercials, do all the things to limit cigarettes. And we've seen a huge fall off in cigarette smoking. Kids no longer think it's cool. It's not in movies, it's not in commercials. The bad guy takes a puff of a cigarette, not the good guy anymore, right? The Marlboro Man doesn't exist. It took the same amount of time for us to put seatbelts in cars. When I was young, when we bought the family station wagon, my father tucked the seatbelts in between the area where the back of the seat and the bench of the seat met, because that
Right.
seatbelt would never be pulled out. Right now, anyone out there who gets into a car with it, my kid, every time we do, put your seatbelt on, put your seatbelt on, put your seatbelt on. I mean, it's like a broken record. It takes 25 years for those social justice movements to move through the system with enough velocity to actually change behavior in America. We have been at this food thing probably for about 17, 18 years in seriousness, right? I mean, really put it front and center. The last presidential election was the first one where a food topic was asked at a presidential debate. That delighted me, but also shocked me. We should be talking about literal kitchen table issues at kitchen tables and at elections, right? How do local, and I'm talking about it at the community, city, and state level, as well as the federal government. We need to be talking about these issues. These are the vital issues of our time. How do we feed and keep people healthy? I'm not sure
Yeah.
there's anything better. If people, to your point before about processed food, if we're not healthy and well and feeding folks our best, um, then we're not taking care of our fellow human beings, right? And let's start that at home. Let's grow where we're planted, and then export that wisdom out there. I
Yeah.
don't think there's a reason for doing it other than greed, and an inability for some people to want to do the work. We know on every single level that having people eat nutritious, healthy food saves money, solves problems. I mean, we could just keep going. I could repeat what I've said for the
Sure.
last half hour. I would also point out, and people don't think of it this way, food is an international and domestic security issue as well. If we keep people fed and happy and export food jobs overseas, or create companies that use overseas labor and skill to create food businesses, those are good for our national security and international security needs, right? We build friends by doing
Right.
that. Help
Right.
people help themselves. I mean, it's a biblical, give a man a fish,
Hmm.
teach a man to fish, different, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you a great example. Sweet potato vines are a gourmet treat in Japan. They pay a fortune for them. A lot of Japan looks like New England, got the same kind of weather. They have snow in Hokkaido, great skiing, right? Okinawa in the south, more like South Carolina, gets hot in the summer, right? Big, long island chain of a country. They can't grow sweet potatoes down, too sandy, gravel's not right, all the rest of that. You can literally, like asparagus grows a foot a day in the Midwest under the right conditions. In Haiti, a country desperate for businesses, you can grow sweet potatoes and just watch the vines grow. I mean, that's how rich the soil is. It's volcanic, right? It is the perfect place to grow it. 88, 90 degrees every single day, 12 months a year. Start a sweet potato vine company there and ship them to Japan and watch what happens, right? I believe capitalism and entrepreneurship can solve these problems. And if we focus in the food space, we can solve global problems, but it is a national security interest of ours. Climate crisis, immigration reform, domestic security, international security, hunger, waste, these things all intersect. They all sit under the same tent. I've given talks on this at South by Southwest for many, many years. It's why I'm personally such a, I try to pick my battles. It's why I'm such a proponent of aquaculture. And how important aquaculture is to solving our problems. I believe we should eat wild fish stocks, but if we're not farming seaweed and farming fish on land, at sea, in freshwater, in saltwater, we are not going to be able to feed this planet in 50 years. It is an existential crisis that we are enduring. I could go on and on and on. I should say I have a really fun Substack. If people go to andrewzimmern.com, we have tons of recipes, lots of fun stuff, lots of entertainment. I occasionally address things like this in my Substack. We have a lot of recipes and an Ask Me Anything conversation I do a video Ask Me Anything segment every week. And if people want to dive into more of this with me and build that community, go to andrewzimmern.com. Subscribe to my Substack. My website is free, thousands of recipes, lots of info. But that's the way we're going to do this together.